It's that time again. It's time for another Saturday night special where we talk about everything rockhounding related. Hope you guys had a fabulous week. Man, I am very happy with how things have gone down out at the Rice Museum. The tour out there was great. Looking at some of the material from the Rock Island Dam was specifically of interest to me, and I'm glad I had an opportunity to check that stuff out. You never know what's going to happen. That may be the last opportunity I have to go experience that, you know? Well, let's look at some of the specimens that I acquired there. I still have some stuff that is in cases that I need to do some relabeling with, but I'm just very happy with this. The whole process was extremely cool. You know, we have a piece of annel seam from Montreal. Very beautiful piece. Couldn't be more happy with that. Mesolite with Cobazite. Springfield Butte. Look at that. That is I'm very, very happy here. I think it's interesting to find stories within this kind of rockhounding world. You know, it can be a lot of things. It can be following a path in the lapidary world. It can be finding a jeweler that you like and try to match what they do, learn from them. There's a lot of angles that this hobby can be approached from, this collecting, rockhounding, mineral hobby, and kind of learning about picking a group of rocks or minerals and like focusing on it like a laser beam for years and years has been extremely valuable. I can't tout that enough. You know, whatever the thing is that you like, you know, get the books, get the things, hone in on it, try to be a master of it is, well, I think that's the route to go. I think it's the route to go. Let's look at this big piece of stilbite. Look at that. That thing's a beast. That is very, very cool. From the Skookumchuck Dam. I dig it. I dig it. Very happy. Well, if you didn't watch those, go watch those. Also, this is very good. That's a good local brewery here, you know, local to Mead, Washington. It's like a adjacent town to Spokane. I got another thing in the mail this week, which it's something that I've been slightly curious about for a while, so I'm looking forward to trying some of this stuff out and maybe getting some more things in the in the shop here. I forgot what I was in the shop. All right. Now, I haven't tested this, so it might be a terrible product. It might also be a really good product. It might also just be a lukewarm product. That's how these things go. So, lapidary, drilling, CNC, general cutting from a guy down in Yakima. So the basics of it, it's like a concentrate, and we add it to water, and we can use it in trim saws. Now, I guess the theory is, or the claims around these types of products, is that you'll get smoother cuts coming off of a trim saw, depending on what you're doing. That may or may not matter. Like, as an example, you know, cutting, I like that I can just reach down and be like, oh yeah, a bit of thunder eggs. Yeah, all right, so this is kind of small to cut on a big oil saw. This, was Richardson's egg? Anyways, this double thunder egg. I could very easily cut this by hand, like that, on my 10-inch, and would the surface finish cut with water, just normal, you know, tap water, be worse than this? Would that be better, you know? Will this produce a better finish? Because depending on what your system is for polishing, that may or may not matter. High speed, you know, Richardson's high-speed sander and like the carpet wheel, that setup that I have, I don't think this is going to make much of a difference at all. I don't think it's going to make a difference. Going to like a cab machine after cutting, probably not going to make a whole lot of difference. Taking this flat, if I was only using like my high-tech flat lap, well, I think that would make a big difference because that is a slower machine using electroplated wheels like this. So having less saw marks in theory would be a lot better. You kind of like spend a little less time on those lower grits, which that would be really good. Rust inhibitor, I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna try this guy out. Yeah, I mean, if it's, we got 32 ounces of liquid here to 2.5 gallons of water. My saws take about a gallon-ish. And obviously you don't throw it out. You want to try to save it or leave it in. So it'll be good to do some testing with these. Lots of companies make this stuff. Like, I think maybe the only company that produces lapidary stuff that doesn't make a water additive based lubricant surfactant cutting fluid thing. I don't even know what to really call them. I don't think Highland Park does it. I think all the other ones are doing it though. So yeah, got that in. Well, it's almost like book report time. It's kind of like a book report time. This week, I read this, The River Runs North, a story of the Montana moss agate. And boy, do I regret not reading this before going to Montana on our trip to the Yellowstone River. And I'm also very happy that I am reading these books before chopping into any of the agates from there that I got. Because just this one book out of his series, I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot. I would recommend this 100%. And I'll tell you, we'll get into it. But if you're curious, I would put a buy on this, especially if you're going to be taking like a trip to the Yellowstone River. This will give such greater context to what you're looking at, what you're going out there for, some of the history, some of the geology, lots of good photos. Which we're gonna get. There's another thing right there that we need to talk about. All right, so I like that, by all accounts, Tom is a subject matter expert on these rocks. A couple of the photos in here, I'm like, they're not the highest quality photos, but overall, I would give the photos a solid B+ to an A. I like that there's some history in here. Let me show you. And when I say history, like, I'm talking about the history of the agates and kind of like, oh my gosh. So he talks some about the first people to cut agates in Montana using mud saws. Like, and I love that there's like these historic photos in here. Like that, it just gives a lot of depth to the story, I think. And if you don't know what a mud saw is, basically a mud saw is, you know, it would be like a homemade blade in a kind of traditional lapidary big slab saw, but rather than having diamonds on the edge, it's just pulling grit through. So to cut something was incredibly slow. Like I've never used one. Nobody has mud saws for the most part, but I can only imagine the frustration that was produced when you make a bad cut with a mud saw. So yeah, it gets into some of the history. It talks about how some of these things were formed, some of the different types of agates that you're going to find out there, and I like that. Some of the geologic information in here is really good. What else? Some, tips on identifying it. I like it talks about the different formations, types of agate that you're going to find, and there's like some little maps in it. It's very, it straddles the line between being in-depth and friendly to a new reader. So it's kind of like right in that middle ground. It's not a textbook. We're not super nerding out here. Like, you could just pick this thing up and read it, which one thing I learned a lot is how to, I guess, read these, how to look for the dendrites. Now, that's kind of a big thing. Like, generally, if I get rocks and I'm like, what's going on inside here? I start cutting them. I'm like, chop, chop, chop into these things. I'm glad I didn't do that. That's a mistake. Don't just chop into your Yellowstone River, Montana moss agate rocks that you've got. Because we want to find plumes. We want to find dendrites. We want to find that type of stuff, He did touch on some iris. He touched on the ultra rare blue Montana agates. Some different specimens in here. Very good book. Very good. There is a little bit about how he's cutting them, which talks about some of the fixtures. Some cool stuff in here. I like it. I like it a lot. What else? Yeah, there's some stuff in here about jewelry and kind of sharing some of his precious things from his own collection, which are incredibly beautiful. Overall, very, very good. Well, let's dial down some of the lights, and we will look at these 3 examples here. And I learned a lot by inspecting them carefully with lights, which that is something you should definitely do. The careful inspection of these chunky little agates from out there in Montana. Let's see, are we good here? Maybe this will work. Maybe we can make this work. Okay. Little pen light. All right, now normally looking at rocks like this doesn't actually yield much extra information other than you see this kind of glow. Now, as we go around here, am I in focus? Hopefully I'm in focus. You can see that there's not a whole lot on the inside. We got a little, those spots right there could be some very thin dendrites. But for the most part, I bet if I cut this one, it'll mostly be clear. Now, we might have those dendrites in this kind of like thin band on the outside, so like that right there. So I'd probably cut it and try to see if I could get that out. But for the most part, it's very clear chalcedony. This one has a whole bunch. We're going to focus here. Can you see those little specks in there? Let's try the other light real quick. Maybe. Can you see those little spots? Ultra, ultra tiny dendrites in that. Not the big plumy things that you would want and hope for. This one is interesting because, well, we have multiple things happening here. Can you see? We have some layering, so this is kind of the orientation here. This bottom half is definitely, we got some layers in here. Like, think, like waterline. You can kind of really see right there. And then as we move up, though, look, we have little dendrites in there, that little black right there. That's on the inside. That's on the inside. So this is a good candidate to slab up I think this one would be good to make cuts in this orientation and know that the top half, like this cap, right? This cap could be have dendrites in it. So it would be like waterline on the bottom, dendrites on the top. And you can kind of see some of that line in there. So very cool to be able to, well, there you go. You can kind of see some of those dendrites right there in the middle of your screen. It's good to have this very close inspection of these. That was not something I was going to initially do, and I would have probably screwed it up. Instead, I'm like, reading this. This one may not be worth my time. It may not be worth my time to focus on. Maybe these types of things. That's where it's at. It's not exclusively about the dendrites, but if you have 7 gallons of rock and you don't have infinite amount of time to cut and spend in your shop, do this one last. Do these ones first. So I got that out of this book. That's nowhere near the complete kind of, I don't know, value out of it, but I thought that was an interesting little tidbit. And next week I will continue on because there are a number of books from Tom that will be I'll be reading, and once I get through all of them, we're going to start working on some of these agates from Montana. So exciting stuff. Next week I got a couple of good videos for you. Stay tuned for that. And already I am looking forward to doing something else in the future at a mineral museum, because that was a lot of fun. Very thankful to have that type of opportunity, and that type of opportunity wouldn't exist without you guys. Thank you so much for being here, supporting my project, watching the videos. It truly means a great deal to me. So thank you guys. Well, we'll leave this one here. I hope you have a fabulous weekend, and I will catch you in the next video.